everyone. It's the end of October. We are starting to crate up our bulbs. So these came into us last week. We order most of our fall bulbs from Venort Bulbs, and I have one variety that we brought in from Unicorn Blooms this year called La Belle Epoque. If you know, you know. And so now we have to basically start crating up bulbs. Now, the reason that we do this here on the farm is because I try and date our bloom times on the bulbs to Easter. And if you are familiar with Canada, you know it's cold. So this year, I basically had to count back weeks from Easter. So that we knew when the bulbs needed to come out of the cooler, which is where they will spend the winter for the cold stratification process, and then we will bring them out in the spring and stick them in their very own new bulb greenhouse, which is going to be going up right there. And yeah, so this is what we're working on today. We are cold stratifying and basically pushing muscari, daffodils, narcissus, like specialty narcissus, hyacinth, Dutch iris, and tulips this year. We have flower subscriptions that we offer in the spring from starting like the first week of March and running basically until the second week of April, so 6 straight weeks of flowers. So I'm also thinking about those. I want to be able to bring those flowers out, get them going a little earlier, because if we think about last year and we think about the cold spring that we had, we didn't actually get our any flowers. If you go back and watch like Easter's video from like this past year, you will know that we barely had flowers for Easter this past year. I was really nervous, and I think we had like 3 tulip varieties that bloomed, and it was hard because Easter was late. So like this past year, we had a very hot summer, a very cold spring. We're at very temperate fall. Fall's been really nice this year, and I'm grateful for that. But now's the time that we're going to be working on getting tulips in the ground and in the cooler for next year's blooms. So come along for today's video, and I'm going to take you through that process. It's going to be dirty, it's going to be fun, and there's a lot of counting. So this process is not rocket science. We brought topsoil in from my in-laws who run an excavating company, and we also use their machines for digging things up. As I am filling the crates up, Malcolm is going to be taking them into the greenhouse, so you can just grab stuff. Malcolm, don't worry about the video. Okay. Yeah. We're basically putting about 3 to 4 inches of dirt in the bottom of the crate, and then we will be laying the bulbs on top of that and then covering them back up with a little bit more topsoil. So basically what we are doing here is we are putting 40 of 2 varieties in one crate. So that's 80 tulips total in one crate. And you can see we've got flagging tape here marking the date which they need to come out. So all of the tulips in this crate are going to come out of the greenhouse on March the 5th. So doing it this way enables us to have multiple successions and give more than one succession to each tulip variety. So there's a few that we pulled out early because one, we've trialed them in the past. I know that they stay really well in the cooler. They cold stratify really well. They develop good root systems. And so knowing that, we're able to figure out which ones we want for when. Now, every different type of bulb has a different period of cold stratification that it needs. So for instance, tulips need a minimum of 12 to 14 weeks. So the earliest we can pull them out of the cooler starting them from this date. So they're going in today, which is October 30th. The earliest we can pull them out 12 weeks from now would be like January 29th. Sorry, January 29th. Hyacinths need a little bit longer period, so those we can't start pulling out until about the middle of February. Muscari also needs about 14 weeks, and daffodils, hold on, I wrote it down because I'm good, but I'm not that good. Daffodils need 14 weeks as well. So starting to think about when we want stuff to bloom next year enables us to get things in earlier. Now, the other thing that we're doing is preparing ahead of time for the fact that I also want to do our own bulbs this year for spring planters. And that also means that I have to go through and think about which varieties of those are getting started when, and we're gonna have a crate of those that are all gonna get pulled out at the same time so that we can do things like workshops with the spring bulbs and spring planters that we can then bring to the store and sell just in time for Easter, while also remembering slightly different time period on those because I don't actually want those fully bloomed out. We want them to be like this tall. So they're gonna come out like a week and a half to 2 weeks before Easter, which is April 5th next year, by the way, for those of you that need to mark this onto your calendars now. That way we've got good successions, a variety of options of bulbs available, and our tulips, everything spends enough time in the cooler that it needs to be at in order to develop good root systems and good flowers for next year.
Do they grow like this for the whole time, or do they get planted in the ground?
Nope. So basically what we're going to do is these are going to pre-sprout. They're going to hang out in the cooler until we pull them out.
Yep.
And then basically when they go into the planters, we want them to just be budding up. They're going to be about this tall.
Okay.
And then these are going to get planted in those plastic planters that we have at the store. Those,
right.
And then they go in the coolers so that people can purchase them and put them on their Easter tables.
I see.
And then they'll bloom for the customer. Okay. These, however many you have here.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
2 more crates.
22 in there.
Can I get one more crate there? So you can do, again, 24
okay.
on this side. Okay, so if we pop into the cooler, you can see that Nick's been slowly starting to stack the crates here. Everything has labels on it, so everything that's in the one pile is coming out of the cooler on the same date. These are gonna go into the main cooler, which I can't get into this exact moment, but we have already dug up all the dahlia tubers and they are back in that section of the cooler already. So it feels really nice this year. Oh, let's go in. We're quite organized, which I'm pleased about. You can see all of our dahlias are up. They are over here. Everybody is tagged this year. We did end up taking a few varieties just out of the farm completely because I decided I don't want to grow those anymore. They don't sell. We're getting rid of them. No sense keeping dahlias we don't want. As we dug up, we also got rid of any diseased dahlias because that happens every year. There's always a few. Those have gone into the garbage. They are gone. So it is looking really, really good. And in about a month, so the very start of December, we will start the process of dividing all 4 skids of dahlia tubers. There's about 7,000 here, clumps. So, yay. How many hours have we been at this?
6?
6.
Yeah.
Also, guys, that's Malcolm behind the camera. I think you guys have sort of met him before. These are the last 5 bulbs going in. We've done 2,500 bulbs today. These are the La Belle Epoque, so these will be ready actually for a wedding at the end of April, which is exciting. I'm just trying to find room for all of them, and there's the last bulb. Last bulb! We did it! So Nick and Malcolm have headed to the cooler to offload the second last load of tulips, and I am just backfilling that last stack with the rest of the dirt, and then we are done. We got 2,500 bulbs done in a single day. It's not bad. It's gloriously raining. We still haven't had enough rain, but this is better than nothing, so I'll take it. Next week, we start planting the outdoor tulips, which I will try to remember to time lapse. One of the things I'm realizing this year is that, or this fall, is that there's a lot of content that I'm taking, but it's, I'm running out of time to edit videos, guys. So, what I'm trying to do, you'll have just seen my Thanksgiving harvesting video as I am actually taking the footage for this one. And yeah, that's about it. So, whoop-de-doo, let's get this finished and be done for the day because I'm getting wet. It's like 5 degrees outside. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. Okay, so because I know I'm probably going to get a few questions about this, I just wanted to come on and let you know the thought process behind how we, mathed out the bulbs. So one of the things I did last year that I didn't actually talk about on the channel when we were picking and harvesting tulips was I really did a hard document last year of the varieties of tulips that created really well, that did well in the field. There are a number of varieties that we didn't bring back in, namely a lot of the frilled double varieties, because I did find year after year, those ones were the most likely to have smaller blooms than we were expecting, and they didn't open well enough that when we picked them, they did end up molding a lot in the cooler. And with April and May on the farm, when it's windy and rainy, having tulips that aren't going to survive well in the cooler is not, it's not a great look, right? So there's a few things that we got rid of. I only planted 2 parrot varieties this winter because, again, we're just finding that other than like the black parrot and the apricot parrot, a lot of those other specialty varieties in between just were not working well in our climate for what I needed them to. And I really need tulips to kind of be done by Mother's Day weekend, because once we get past that, unless I have a wedding that specifically is requesting tulips post Mother's Day, in Canada, tulip season's pretty much like done and over with. You have a hard time selling tulips after that. People are starting to think about planting their spring gardens. And so we're moving into like, you know, the ranunculus, anemone, snapdragon season that is like end of May into the end of June. How did I like sit down and process, you know, what tulips were going into crates versus which ones were going into the field? Because that last little clip of video, you did see that there was about 5,000 bulbs that went into the ground. Now, not all of those were tulips. There's a substantial amount. Your girl ordered 800 alliums, and past Brittany like had a mind of her own. Present Brittany looked at her order list from Venort and went, what? But my suspicion is that I was like, oh, these are really cool and structural and like, yay, we'll have a lot of them. But I don't know. So I have 800 alliums in my field this year. Didn't crate any of those because they need a longer stratification process. So they're just going to perennialize, and it's totally fine. But basically what I did was I spent a lot of time going through, making myself a spreadsheet of all of the tulip varieties after they came in, how many we wanted to put in crates versus how many we wanted to put in the fields. And I knew what I wanted to order this year because I kept careful track of what was selling and moving in the spring last year, but also kept track of stuff like which tulips lost their heads because they got overhydrated. So I didn't order nearly as many like pomponettes and sunlover tulips this year, which are late season tulips, because they were almost too heavy on the tops, and their heads would pop off. They'd crack once they would get overhydrated. So we cut a lot of tulips down. We also primarily sell our single tulips to a local wholesaler in the spring to top them off between their trips to like the Toronto Flower Market. So for me, I do prioritize early tulips in crates for them because I know that those are going to move. So sat down and made a complex list of exactly the successions, how many were going in, and when they were going to get pulled out. So now when we go into the cooler to pull stuff out starting on January 29th, I believe is the first succession that is coming out. So that's like 3 months away, right? Just over 12 weeks. We now can see exactly where the tulips, the hyacinths, and everything are, and was able to kind of check them off as we went. Now, you'll also notice in a lot of those crates, what we did was we planted 2 varieties in a crate, the only exception to that being the Dutch irises, which some of them had 3 and some of them had just all of the same, because those are a first year crop for us. So I'm literally just trialing those. It was kind of like, we're going to put them all in crates because I don't need them to bloom in the fields. Now, we this year are also cold stratifying and pre-sprouting various varieties of specialty narcissus, some of the Delchenard, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that, apricot variety, as well as some like paper narcissus, because we want to have those for Easter planters in the spring. So there is also this year a substantial amount of additional bulbs, which normally we would put in the field to like beef up stock there, but I didn't need to put any additional narcissus in the field this year. And so instead what I decided to do, because I really want to get a lot of those specialty varieties going well before Easter. They don't move people. So like if you've been in flowers, if you've been a florist, you know that there's certain holidays that are very specific to certain types of flowers, right? Tulips kind of start in Southwestern Ontario from the large growers right after Valentine's Day, sometimes right before. There's even a few that we're seeing, you know, already in the fall because they've cold stratified for the summer and they are done through hydroponics, and so they're going out to wholesalers already. But hyacinths specifically and daffodils specifically are very much an Easter flower. And it can be really difficult living in more northern climates because other than the very basic like single yellow narcissus, it can be hard to sell them, you know, after a specific date. And everybody, you don't necessarily see them in the fields before then because it's not warm enough for the flowers to like come up and actually bloom. So part of our goal with creating a lot of these earlier bulbs is to make our flower season essentially extend a lot longer. I might have, you know, Dutch irises for Valentine's Day. That would be really great. I didn't sit down and plan the crates assuming that I would have stuff for Valentine's Day this year. I sat down and figured, you know, the first week of March is going to be the first week that we actually have our own flowers ready and available in store. And then the other side of this conversation, a huge reason why we're doing that this year, is strictly financial. You know, we make obviously more money on the flowers that we grow ourselves, but on top of that, you know, prices of bulbs have gone up this year. I'm sure many of you are aware. And the continuously changing tariff situation in the States means that, you know, certain flowers are becoming more expensive coming into Canada and vice versa. And that's really had a huge impact on, you know, margins for flowers because you can't necessarily, you know, upcharge on every single thing either. So there's a lot of nuance to this conversation, but ultimately, I think for us specifically, that is the door, by the way. Staff are out. I'm at the shop right now. Anyways, the nuances to this conversation are essentially that the sooner I can get my own flowers blooming and ready to go in store, the better my profit margins are on my business, right? And then on top of that, when I'm thinking about flowers coming in already in March, one of my goals for next year, now that we've done a lot of work this summer on rebuilding infrastructure on the farm, sorting dahlia tubers, you know, seed saving and all sorts of other stuff, planning ahead, this year in 2025, other than a couple florists that I know and love, we did not offer wholesale this year. In 2025, I am planning to reopen wholesale in my area because I've had enough other florists, local florists reach out to me now that are like, hey, like, what have you got growing? And I'm starting to have the infrastructure available to grow more for them. And I think as we saw at the beginning of COVID and now coming into, you know, this like weird tariff era, local flowers are really making a comeback. So that brings me to the next thing, which is that part of having, you know, my tulip availability and my planting chart and when these are coming out of the cooler so that we can kind of estimate along the line when our blooms are going to be available, I have to create a new flower availability sheet for florists. So all in all, there's a lot of fall work to be done. It's a lot of administration. It's a lot of math. But just so that you guys can kind of see behind the scenes, you know, what's going on, where we're working with that. I am pleased this year that I was able to, you know, look back on my notes from earlier in the spring and make some, you know, educated decisions about going into 2025, because I do think that, you know, local blooms as a whole are really going to become, you know, important within the coming year. Again, I think there's, you know, if nothing else, there's been a bit of a shift back towards some of our local agriculture, and I'm happy to see that. And so we're looking to kind of meet our greater community where that's at. And part of that is having flowers earlier. So that's why we do it. If you guys have any questions, definitely post it below. Thank you so much for watching this video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.